All right, let's just dive right in because what we're talking about today is this really powerful new way of looking at stories, a framework called Abyssal Sovereignty. And trust me, it's a concept that completely flips our whole idea of heroism and power right on its head. So let's kick things off with this question. I mean, what if all the stories we've ever heard, about rising up, reaching for the stars, climbing the mountain, what if they've got it all wrong? What if true, unshakable power isn't some gift you get from up high, but something you have to forge by going down, way, way down into the dark? And that right there is the fundamental shift. You see, on one hand, you've got classic heroism. It's all about ascents, about being seen by everyone, getting a blessing from the heavens. But abyssal sovereignty? It says, nope, you've got it backward. Power here is all about the descent, about mastering the insane pressure of the deep and becoming something totally new because of it. Now, the main engine behind this whole idea is called inverted descent. And listen, this isn't just a fancy way of saying the story is set in a cave instead of on a mountain. The source material calls it an ontological shift. And what that means is that the very nature of power itself, its location, moves from that distant sun right down to the planet's core. To get this power, a hero doesn't climb, they have to go down and literally survive the bedrock.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. This whole model redefines what's actually threatening. In this world, the huge, obvious monster, that skinless titan, is actually the weaker one. It's made completely obsolete by this small, individual shadow figure. And this figure doesn't win with brute force. They win through this intense, focused well, something the source calls a generative bloodlust. It's not just mindless rage. Think of it as this creative, focused drive that's born out of conflict. It's a total power inversion.
And this table just breaks it all down for us perfectly. I mean, just look at the power source. In the classic stories, it's biological, something you're born with. But in the inverted descent, it's a focused, bioelectric will. Then look at human agency. It shifts from these big armies to a single, terrifying individual. Even the kind of trauma is different. It's not about being eaten. It's about this visceral, anatomical exposure. It's like a whole new language for power. Okay, so this all sounds pretty wild in theory, but for a story to actually work, it has to feel real, right? It needs some rules. So the big question is, how does a character actually survive this insane descent without just being crushed instantly? Well, let's get into the engineering of it all. The source gives us this amazing real-world example, an inverted quadrirotor drone. Instead of fighting gravity, it literally flips upside down and uses gravity to power its rotors. But to keep from just tumbling out of the sky in its own turbulence, what's called the vortex ring state, it uses a super fast spin to stay stable. And this allows it to fall in a controlled way 3 times faster than normal. Our characters do the same thing, metaphorically. They don't fight the crushing pressure, they yield to it, they spin with it, and they use that immense force to power their own control. So that's the physics of the fall. But what about the places where this happens? The architecture of the deep is anchored by something called the Byzantine hypogeum. We're talking about massive underground cities carved out of soft volcanic rock, and they're built to manage what the text calls the spirit of gravity. Those huge central pillars, they're not just holding up the ceiling. They're designed to channel and internalize the crushing weight of the world itself. And you see, these underground places aren't all the same. They come in 2 main flavors. First, you've got the engine for emergence. This is a place you go deep, to handle the pressure, and to forge completely new values in total isolation. But then there's its opposite, the museum of the static. This kind of place is like a vault, a lid that's designed to hoard old values and keep the world above stable and unchanging. It's the new world versus the old, literally built into the rock. So we've got the theory, we've got the physics, but who are the people who actually live this stuff? What does this abyssal power look like when it's embodied in a character? Let's check out a few examples. First up, we've got Kiora, who is basically the sovereign of the oceanic deep. Her authority comes from her complete mastery of the abyss. She commands krakens and giant sea serpents, the only creatures massive enough to even exist down there. And with her weapon, the Bidon of Thassa, she can literally use the weight and pressure of the entire ocean against her enemies. Then you have someone like Maximus, the sovereign of the deep earth. After being isolated in one of those hypogeums, he internalized the pressure of the bedrock itself and converted it into this incredible bioelectric magnetism. He essentially takes the geological force that was supposed to bury him forever and turns it into his own personal superpower. He weaponizes the pressure.
But here's the thing, not everyone who masters pressure is a protagonist. Meet the Crimson Dragon. This isn't a hero, it's the ultimate gatekeeper. It's a monster made of pure order and gravity. Its scales aren't just scales, they're thousand-year-old laws, traditions, the guilt of entire generations. Its only purpose is to protect that hoard of values from the past and stop any new sovereign from rising up from the deep.
Okay, and this is maybe the most important part of this whole idea. The fall into the deep isn't just about surviving physical pressure. That's all just a metaphor for a much deeper, much scarier journey. The descent into the psychological abyss of the self. This chart maps out that inner journey brilliantly. So you start at the surface, which Jungian psychology would call the persona or the ego. That's our social mask, our day-to-day self. But the first layer of descent forces you to confront your shadow, all the parts of yourself you've repressed. Go deeper, and you hit the collective unconscious, what some philosophers might call the void. It's only by going through all these terrifying inner layers that a character can finally reach the bottom and forge a true sovereign will. So, how does a world or a character actually do this? How do you achieve abyssal sovereignty? Well, it all starts with a single, terrifying moment of clarity, and it's summed up perfectly in this quote: "The roof is gone." The framework actually gives us 3 laws for this new sovereign. Step 1, abolish the heavenly wager. You have to realize that no one is coming to save you. Stop praying. Step 2, internalize the pressure. Take all of that weight from history, from trauma, from gravity itself, and turn it into your personal power source. And step 3, dictate the lightning of the now. Stop being a victim of old laws and become the one who writes the new ones.
And that brings us to this final thought, which just perfectly wraps up the entire philosophy. The idea that true strength, true enlightenment, being sun-kissed, is absolutely impossible until you have first gone down into the deepest, darkest pressures and allowed yourself to be completely remade by them, to be core forged.